I think I listened to that song differently today. Thank you. I want to welcome everybody to Heritage today. We're really happy that you're here in the sanctuary or on Zoom. And we're thrilled to have Diane Wright with us today. She's a longtime UU, and she's worked for 32 years at Greater Cincinnati Behavioral Health Services as a clinician and as an administrator. She teaches as an instructor in several social work programs and travels throughout the country as an international accreditation surveyor in behavioral health and opioid treatment. And here's a neat one. She's a certified labyrinth facilitator. And she's excited to be visiting a congregation that actually has a labyrinth that we maintain. And she lives in Sharonville with her husband, Howard, who's here with us today, too. And she's a proud mom and stepmom of 4 adult children. I encourage you to read the announcements that are on the back of your bulletin about important things that are coming up. I'd like to highlight a couple of things. One is that the connection cards, if you're a visitor today, and even if you're not, if it's your first time or not, and we invite you to complete one of those out. And there's actually one in the chat on Zoom as well, for those of you who are watching that way. I want to remind you that on Sunday, September 13th, we have our water communion, and we encourage you to bring some water to share the places you've been over the summer. On September 19th, put this on your calendar, we have our fall festival. It starts at 5 p.m. And then next Sunday, after the service, until about 4 p.m., there's going to be a pool party. Not here, but at the Cialino's home. You can read more about that on the back of your bulletin as well. Our board greeter today is Sue Rahal. Are you, Sue's out there? Right there, look at there. And she can give you a tour of the church if you need one, or answer any questions, especially if you're a first-time visitor, but anybody else as well. And now to our call to worship. I offer these words from John Berger's book and BBC series, Ways of Seeing. We only see what we look at. To look is an act of choice. As a result of this act, what we see is brought within our reach. With that in mind, I want to welcome you to this morning of light, shadow, and perspective. A lens, whether made of glass or made of human sight, does not just capture a moment, it connects us to it. Let us enter this worship with a wide-angle heart and focused minds, ready to discover the divine in the frame of this present moment. I'd like to invite Ruby to come up and light our chalice. Nicely done. Thank you. Please stand as you are willing and sing Wake Now My Senses. It's number 298 if you're using the hymnal. We're going to sing the first 3 verses and remain standing as we speak our covenant.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end.
By this covenant, we affirm that love is the spirit of this church, the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
Step here. We're going to play an improv game, and we're going to need some ideas. This has many names. Today we're going to call it Picture Imperfect. And you're going to stand up. Yes, thank you, Ruby. We're going to have 10 seconds to make a picture of whatever we say. So, for example, I'm going to say zoo. Don't tell anybody. I'm going to say zoo, and you're going to have 10 seconds to make a picture of the zoo. You don't all have to do the same thing, but it does have to make sense with everybody else's thing. Good luck. All right. All right, you have 10 seconds. Make a zoo. Go. 10, 9. Make a statue of something at the zoo. 8, 7. Here's an idea. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, I see a lot of animals. Excellent, excellent. Okay, I need some ideas for these kids. What are we going to do next? What's our next imperfect picture? Baseball game. 10 seconds. Go. 10, 9, 8, 7. A lot of batters at this game. 6, 5. There's a pitcher. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, I would challenge you. Thank you for throwing a ball at me. I would challenge you to do something where you have to talk to somebody next to you and like team up with them. If you want, I'm not going to force you to do anything. I need another idea. Four-legged animals. Thank you, sir. Ready? 10, 9. You can make one with another person too. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, these are wonderful. These are fantastic. Yes. I like the teeth. Very good. I need another idea. A band. All right, like a music band. 10, 9, 8, 7. A band of musicians. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, some people are using their siblings for drum sets. Great. Who has another idea? A flower, a garden. A garden of flowers. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, that one grew so quickly. All right. Let's do one more, and then we're going to depart with a blessing and go on to RE. What was that? Water. Interesting. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, excellent. Very, very good. All right. All right. Would you please echo me? We have these eyes to see the world. We have these eyes to see the world. And hearts to know each other. And hearts to know each other. Sometimes a screen can block our view. And hide us from another. But lenses help us see the earth. In ways we never knew. To catch the wonder of a wing. Alive with hidden hue. So let us put the camera down to look into your eyes. We bless the magic that we share beneath the open skies. All right, let's head on to RE. Thank you so much.
Okay. Now we're going to move into our time of sharing joys and sorrows. So we'll shift our view of the wider world to a more detailed view of our lives. In photography, there is a difference between taking a picture and making a picture, where we bring our whole heart, composition, and presence into that frame. This morning, our joys and sorrows are both taken and made. Some are given to us by circumstance, light and shadow that we didn't create. Some are crafted on how we choose to show up for love and support of one another. So as we light our candles today, may we remember that we are both the subject and the lens, and let us frame one another with compassion, holding each light with sacred intention. We invite you to line up on either side of the sanctuary. When it's time to get started here, Diane will give you the microphone, and then of course, you'll just pass that back and forth until we're done. And also, just as a reminder, we have this anniversary jar up here, and the money from this helps with the community garden back there. And this is not just for birthdays. It can also be anniversaries or some other notable event that you want to share. And if you want to, you can drop some money in there. You don't have to. So, are there any joys and sorrows today? And I want Diane to light one last candle for those joys and concerns that were not shared today, but are in our hearts. You know, photography connects us to the sacred beauty of our world. So we're going to honor that connection today with our plate collection, which will support Photo Focus Cincinnati. This is a local nonprofit that celebrates photography as the medium of our time through programming that ignites a dialogue between contemporary lens-based art and the history of photography. Through its signature programs, Photo Focus inspires conversations about the world through photography. They've presented more than 800 projects and 600 grants to provide uniquely enriching access to lens-based art, film, and practices inspired by photography. Your generosity today will help creators illuminate truth, spark wonder, and share their unique vision with our community. You can donate online at photofocus.org/donate or via today's plate collection. Thank you for your vital support. We'll collect the offering. I like that celebratory input there. Thanks, Sherry, for that. And we are now welcome Diane Wright to the podium.
Well, good morning. I want to begin by saying some thank yous. I want to thank Stephanie, who first reached out to me to invite me to come back to Heritage. It's been years since I've been here, and it feels so good to be here. I want to thank Les for the work that we got to do together to coordinate the service, Lucy for being in cahoots with me, because we're going to share some slides today, which is not something I normally do, and she has me feeling very confident about it. So we're going to see how this goes. Wonderful to see familiar faces, to see new faces, and as a visitor to this congregation, I just want to reflect back to you how welcoming it feels here. Enough to make me teary-eyed as I say that. So thank you for that. And thank you. For me, those are the voices of angels punctuating our lives. So it's August 23rd, and a few of you might have heard me speak before, and if you have, you might know that I like to use the date itself as a point of departure. And so today, August 23rd, is the birthday of Galen Rowell, a renowned photographer. And isn't that a great picture? A renowned photographer who was born in 1940 and died in August of 2002. Here's a picture of one of his most famous photographs, and I bet you've seen this. I've seen this before and didn't know the photographer. It's called Rainbow over Potala Palace, and it was taken in Lhasa in Tibet in 1981. I understood as I connected with Stephanie and with Les that there was a wonderful theme for this month at Heritage, the theme of sacred arts. And so when I saw that it was Galen Rowell's birthday, I knew that I wanted to focus on photography this morning. Photography as one of those sacred arts. So this morning, I'm going to talk a little bit about Galen Rowell and about the way his life intersects with my own life. Isn't that the way it always is? We learn about someone, and because we're human, we immediately connect to the things that are similar to us. And I'm going to talk about the way photography is woven into nooks and crannies of many of our lives. When my youngest son was in high school, he was lucky enough to attend a semester environmental science school in northern Wisconsin. It's no longer a semester high school, unfortunately, but the impact that that program had on him was immeasurable. It really set him on a wonderful path. And among other courses there, he took a photography course. And from then on, whenever I would talk about taking pictures, he would add, "Mom, you know, you take a picture, but you make a photograph." And that quote is attributed to Ansel Adams. And side note, my son met his wonderful girlfriend when they were both working at Yosemite, and they attended a party held by a descendant of Ansel Adams, which I think is a very cool relationship origin story. And so I've told them, no pressure, but that's a really good one. So you take a picture, but you make a photograph. I've always been more of a words person, but I understood what he was talking about with the process of photography, the planning, the preparation, the act, and then, and it's often this way with writing, the potentially much longer process of developing and editing the photograph. Our relationship to taking pictures, to that part, has certainly, I think, changed over the past couple of decades. And I think one of the most illustrative images of this change that's been happening, was the comparison of pictures from the Vatican from 2005 and 2013. And take a look at how it's changed. There we go. So you can see in the top 2005, and you can see in the bottom 2013. And imagine now. Almost all of us now carry a camera all the time, everywhere we go. Sometimes when my husband Howard is using his cell phone to capture pictures, he'll joke, well, that's it, I'm almost out of film. But of course that's funny because we're not almost out of film, and the challenge becomes, what do we do with the hundreds, maybe thousands of pictures that end up stored somewhere on our phones or in the internet? How many pictures have we taken and then never reviewed again? This morning's talk was well timed for me personally as I seek new ways to understand and to manage my relationship with my cell phone. What will prompt me to pull out my cell phone to take a picture? How can I be more thoughtful about that, more mindful about that? Do I know where the picture will be headed? What's the point of it when I'm getting ready to take it? My mother was a passionate genealogist, and because of that, we're lucky to have some very old pictures of my ancestors, including this one. I love this picture. My youngest son is not the only one who's bouncing around cliffs, turns out. This is a picture of my great-grandmother. She's on my father's side. This was before she married my great-grandfather. This is in the Wisconsin Dells, and it's sometime around 1900. And you know, no one just whipped out a cell phone out of their pocket to take this picture. This picture took some planning. And my great-grandmother had to stay in that position up on that cliff for more than a second or two. And that photographer had to line everything up for the one or two plates he might have taken. It was a big deal. Or this haunting family, even earlier in the 1800s. They've got that look when you've got really bright blue eyes and it's on old black and white film. You can see the toddlers just couldn't sit still for this process that was going on. The couple there are my great-great-grandparents, different side of the family, a different set of ancestors, and one of those little girls is another great-grandmother of mine. Over the years, photography became easier, cameras became more portable, but think of the preparations that had to happen and the cost of this. It's a big deal that they made this happen. As cameras became more available and more portable, traditions developed within certain communities. And I think it's interesting to consider the prohibitions on photography in some groups. It speaks, I think, to the power of photography. Among the Amish and Old Order Mennonites, many members avoid posing for photographs because they view it as an expression of personal vanity or pride, which goes against their values of humility. Some ultra-Orthodox Jewish communities and conservative Islamic scholars discourage or forbid capturing likenesses of people, especially facial close-ups, out of modesty or an interpretation of prohibitions against graven images. In the traditional Sundanese community in the Kanakis in Indonesia, they strictly ban all photography and electronic media within their innermost sacred villages. And certain indigenous communities in the Americas and Australia forbid photography of sacred ceremonies, burial grounds, or spiritual rock formations. There's some specific restricted zones around Uluru, for example, because capturing images is believed to disrespect or to disrupt the sacred power of the site. I find that really fascinating. And now, photography is so available and so immediate. It's a change even from fairly recent history. How many here remember the Moto photo booth? You could never quite know what you had captured with your camera until you went through the next steps and had the film developed. Galen Rowell was taking pictures when there were still a lot of steps and the equipment could be heavy. And he was taking his pictures, taking his cameras on the cliffs at Yosemite, the mountains of the Sierra Nevada, the high trails of Tibet. Imagine what it took to both be in and take these next pictures. So that's actually Galen Rowell, and somebody's also up there with a camera taking pictures. And thanks to my youngest son, I also know a little bit about Jimmy Chin, the photographer who brought us most of the footage for the film Free Solo. And I debated on this next slide how long I wanted to make you look at it, because I have trouble looking at that for very long. Most of us are not dangling from ropes as we take pictures. I want to hear the story if any of you have had that experience. But I'd like for you to think about the pictures that you have taken recently. Where were you? Where were you? And what prompted you to get out your camera? And was it an actual camera? So think about that for a minute. Where was that? When was that? How long ago was that? I take pictures all the time. Howard, later as you're talking, he will verify that for you, for better or for worse. Here's a recent one. We were at a hot air balloon festival and up in northern Ohio, and it's just so easy. And of course, hot air balloons are just a perfect target for that, but the number of pictures I have of that festival doesn't match how many I shared with you this morning, right? My husband is very patient with me in places where we're walking through crowds of people and we see a mom or a dad or a grandparent taking a picture of the rest of the family. I will sprint to intervene, to offer to be the one taking the picture so that they can all be together. Because I think, ironically, it's a rare picture now that includes a whole family or a whole group, even though it's so easy for us. You know, conversely, that 1800s picture, there you were, all together. You planned and you made that happen. We could do it any time, and yet the ones we take are not those groups. We struggle to be patient enough for the gathering and the posing. I am also the pushy person at the gathering who says, okay, this is the group picture time. Everybody's going to get up and we're going to stand here. But I have had the experience, and this is where this comes from for me. I'm sure I'm not alone here, of going through online and printed pictures to help make the memory boards for a memorial service or the slides for the memorial service. which pictures do we choose? We choose the ones in special places, and we choose mostly the ones with other people. I've had the privilege of supporting many families through memorial services, and I've seen a lot of collections of pictures. And sometimes it's raised questions for me. Sometimes I've had to say to myself, surely there were other pictures. Sometimes I've said to myself, especially at a couple of, unfortunately, friends' memorial services, I don't think she would have liked having that picture up there. So full confession, and this is very not Amish, this actually prompted me to make my own Google photo album, aptly named Diane Memorial Pictures, and I have the link in the materials of my just in case file. And I'm here to tell you, it makes a process easier. I've watched families struggle. But also, what an interesting process of reflection it was, going through and choosing the pictures. What pictures would you want to include? What pictures would you want to set aside? It's a process that continues for me, and about once a year I go back and I look. I remember a comedian that I heard once talking about how he was having trouble after the end of a relationship. He kept staring at the pictures, the two of them smiling everywhere, and he commented, "No one takes the picture when the two of you are screaming at each other in the IKEA store." But maybe even that is changing, as everyone is poised to film any event nearby, and I'd wager that if a couple was having a real screaming fight in an IKEA, someone might actually film it now. At memorial services, I've had people ask me if it's okay to take a picture. And of course, I think every family might be different about this, but I encourage families to think about this as they plan the service. Would it be okay with people taking pictures? A lot of people are dressed up. For many families, it's a time when people are able to be together who rarely come together. And there's actually a tradition from the 1800s that, thank you, Mom, we know about through her genealogy. And she, based on this tradition, she prompted our family to do contemporary versions of it as well. She had pictures of funeral gatherings from the late 1800s where the family is actually gathered around an empty chair. So you know, 100 years later, you know what this was about. This picture, by the way, was a treasure trove for a genealogist. We did it for my grandmother, and then we did it for my mom. And of course, that's a very emotional picture for me to look at. It means so much to me, this crowd gathered around her empty chair. And in honor of my mom, I sent that picture to everyone who came with a full list of everyone present, first and last names in order of the picture, and to my future great-great-grandniece, the nerdy one who ends up interested in genealogy, I say, you're welcome. These days, it's interesting, there's often also a push to keep people from taking pictures, especially during wedding ceremonies. When I'm lucky enough to officiate a wedding, more than half the couples now will ask me to add guidance that no one should be taking pictures during the ceremony. And I'll usually say something like, Mary and Jeff invite you to leave your cell phones off for the ceremony, and they ask that you take pictures only with your hearts. Have any of you been to a wedding recently where that was a request? Don't take the pictures. And the photographers now are saying that because so many pictures from the back of the congregation, if you don't say that, then it's like the Vatican. It's like the Vatican picture. It's a struggle for some people to keep that cell phone off. It's a struggle. I'm one of those people. First step is acknowledging, right? I think these days, for many of us, reaching for a camera is a way of coping with heightened emotion. It puts something literally between us and the world. We get to choose. Am I zooming in? Am I taking a video? When people ask me why I am taking pictures, because I do it a lot, I'll sometimes say that it's so I can remember the moment or the place or the person. But it turns out studies actually show that taking so many pictures may reduce our ability to remember. Take that, Batman. Psychologists call it this is the name, it's not very creative, the photo-taking impairment effect, where taking the photo actually allows us to offload the process of remembering. Isn't that interesting? Conversely, if we actually take the time to review photos later, they can serve as a trigger for us to bring up memories. But I challenge you to think about how often you are going back and looking, because if you're anything like me, it's not very often. We've ended up living with a new kind of clutter, as if we needed more. Our digital clutter can be overwhelming, and without a plan for the future, it can all be easily lost. I encourage you to look at some of the guidance online for what happens to your online presence if something were to suddenly happen to you. It's actually complicated, and it's helpful to look at that ahead of time. When I was reading about digital clutter, which is a thing you can read about now, I came across a phrase that I just loved. It was so true. It said that because we can take endless pictures, we have a tendency to spray and pray. Spray and pray. We just take bunches of pictures of one subject rather than taking the time to be thoughtful and planful about the framing of the picture or the setting. Has that happened to you recently, where someone's taking a picture with your phone and they'll hand it back and they'll say, I took a bunch for you. I took a bunch. And then you've got 12. You've got 12 of the pictures there. I end up with lots, though, of very special pictures of people in my life. And in honor of my mom, I've maintained the Ancestry account. And I keep slowly building the tree, and I add pictures to those profiles. In Ancestry, even if it's a public tree, the profile is not accessible until after a death date is added. And I'm hoping Ancestry will outlive me and maybe outlive my children and grandchildren, and that descendants will easily find the photos and the stories that I gathered together and attached to each person, so that someone will know this was so-and-so and this is where they were, rather than the little box of very old pictures that I have now and I can't identify who's in this frame or that frame. Generally, though, I know that I am in denial about the state of the photographs that I keep. There are the ones, not just that little box, but lots of photos in plastic bins. And there are the ones online. And I know I think about them differently, but they're actually versions of the same thing. So think for a moment about your own situation. What's the oldest printed photograph that you have? And why do you have it? And think about the latest photos that you have taken. What is their future? What will happen to them in 20 years, 40 years, 50 years? There is a show out, and I recommend at least a couple episodes. It's based on the book of the same name, and it's called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning, where 3 Swedish organizers, and they're a hoot, but they come to the home of someone who is wanting to cull out and organize their stuff. And photos, as you might imagine, are a major focus of this process. In one episode, they were helping a woman who had had an amazing life. She had been in LA, she had performed with many celebrities. She had a whole wall covered with 8x10 photographs of her with different celebrities. And they worked with her on that. They went through the photographs, they narrowed them down, they scanned all of them, and then the prints, they narrowed down to about 20 really special ones, and they made those into a book, including captions, so that her nieces and nephews would always know the significance of each photo, because I bet the nieces and nephews don't know who John Davidson was. Galen Rowell and his wife died tragically in a plane crash right at the height of his career and hers, too. They were both photographers. Their 2 children were adults, and they were left with the task of organizing, curating, selling pictures. Ironically, all those dangerous climbs, all those international treks, and Galen Rowell died very close to his home in a plane that stalled just short of the airport. In interviews with Galen Rowell, he talks about the way that cameras see things our eyes can't see. You have to understand light, he said, and you have to understand the camera in order to fully use it as a tool. And this morning, I actually brought one of his books that's available through the library, and I'm glad to have people to come and look up this. He wrote this about being more thoughtful about photography. What can emerge, he said, from the camera is image after image that we cannot see with our naked eye. And I love that. We all saw some vivid examples of this last year when the Northern Lights came far south in Ohio, remember? And you could only see them with a camera or a cell phone. And my husband has just become an award-winning astrophotographer, and his astrophotography is an extreme version of this. Check this out. He really enjoyed that. Thank you. I'm so proud of him, and I'm so excited because it's helped me to learn all these new things about light and photography and how these things work. But it turns out to take a picture of the moon or a galaxy or a nebula, you have to know where to aim the camera. You have to have a camera that has a special way to track because we're moving. And you have to take hundreds or even thousands of pictures and you have to stack them. I say that like I know how that works. You have to use the image that comes to mind for me is you have to use the camera as a rain barrel for the photons, catching more and more and more of the photons. Here's another great example that took many hours of light coming in. And we all know that people can look very different in a photo than they do in real life. I know sometimes it's been a photo that has prompted me to make changes in my life. Or it's a photo that makes me celebrate that I've grown in a certain way because I see myself in a different way. And when we look at pictures of those we love, we know the photo is never quite the person, but sometimes a photo is able to capture something about that person that you can't normally see in person. Maybe this is connected to the reasons that some cultures discourage photography. These are some pictures by Arnold Newman, a portrait photographer. And you can see Arnold Newman was somebody who planned and created a setting and a context, and it was all supposed to give you even more of the story of this person whose photograph he was making. Dorothea Lange wrote, "The camera is an instrument that teaches people to see without a camera." I love that quote. My hope this morning is that we can consider the ways that we see the world, that we can slow down and consider what we want to capture and why. That we consider the photographs we have and the photographs we keep adding to the physical or the digital pile. And that we find a way to circle back to curate what we have created and enjoy that we have created it. The final slide today is another beautiful photograph made by Galen Rowell. This is Yosemite in autumn. Maybe the sacred is not something that we capture, but something that we encounter. Every time we pause and pay attention and bear loving witness to another life and to the world around us, we create an image in our hearts that no camera can fully contain. May we go forth seeing the world that way. Amen. Now please rise as you're willing or able and join us in the closing hymn, "For the Earth Forever Turning," number 163.
Song.
closing words today. First, from Mary Oliver, who wrote, "Instructions for Life. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it." And finally, from Phil Potts, "The world is full of magical things, patiently waiting for our senses to grow sharper."